For more than 50 years, the Colombian government battled a leftist rebel group in a conflict that claimed 220,000 lives, displaced millions of people, and hampered the economy of a country rich in natural resources and human capital. Then something very creative happened. With the help of a marketing campaign, the government of Colombia came up with a creative idea to convince the leftist guerrilla rebels to demobilize and re-enter society. There were 3 phases. The first phase was Operation Christmas. The second phase was Operation Rivers of Light. The third phase was Operation Bethlehem. In the first phase, hundreds of Christmas lights were strung in the jungle on 75-foot trees. A motion sensor was set off when the rebels walked by, and the message that was sent out was, if Christmas can come to the jungle, you can come home. In Operation Rivers of Life, 7,000 translucent soccer balls with gifts and notes in them were lit and floating down the rivers as the rebels passed by. In Operation Bethlehem, huge skylights had this message: this Christmas, follow the light that will guide you to your family and your freedom. Over 8 years, 18,000 guerrillas put down their weapons and came home. The Colombian people started feeling confident, secure, and safe. The fear started to go away. Colombia's spirit, once buried by war, had risen again. The message of Christmas touches the hearts of even the angriest peoples and brings peace. Well, we live in a rather angry world these days, a world filled with so many challenges, some of which we have no control over, others which we create all by ourselves out of our own greed and jealousy and anger. As we look back at 2017, it has been a most challenging year. The fires of Northern and Southern California, Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico, Irma in Florida, massive earthquakes in Mexico, Hurricane Harvey in Houston. The Pacific Northwest was ablaze with wildfires in Washington, Oregon, and Montana. Countless lives were changed forever. Right now, all around our planet, all around our Earth, people need the basics of life: food, water, shelter, power, sanitation, medical care, and are simply not able to obtain them. These are just the natural disasters. We have also faced this year the chaos of political upheaval throughout the world, and scandals in Hollywood and in the media and in Washington. As we come together Christmas Eve of 2017, there's a weariness as we face the manger this year. In Colombia, Christmas was an invitation to come home. Well, for us, Christmas is also an invitation to come home. But what does that mean for you and me? We are not guerrillas fighting in the jungles. But we might just describe ourselves as weary men and women overwhelmed by uncertainty and chaos. So what home are we being invited to come home to this Christmas Eve? Perhaps the home we are invited to come home to is the home of the incarnate God, enfleshed in a small child who could find no room in the inn. You know, as we reflect upon Christmas, it has often been written that the meaning of Christmas is that love will triumph and that we will be able to put together a world of unity and peace. In other words, the Christmas message has always been that we, you and me, we have the light within us, and so we are the ones who can dispel the darkness of the world, that we can overcome poverty, injustice, violence, and evil if we work together. If we work together, we can create a world of unity and peace. But can we? One of the most thoughtful world leaders of the late 20th century was a man by the name of Václav Havel, the first president of the Czech Republic. He had a very unique vantage point from which to peer deeply into both socialism and capitalism. And he was not optimistic that either by itself could solve the great human problems that we face. He knew that science, unguided by moral principles, had given us the Holocaust. So he concluded that neither technology nor the state nor the market alone could save us from nuclear degradation. He wrote, "The pursuit of the good life will not help humanity save itself, nor is democracy alone enough." So, what did Havel tell us that we need? He tells us that we need a turning back and a real seeing of this God who became incarnate in the world at Christmas. And he tells us that we as humans so quickly forget that we are not God. Well, the happenings this past year remind us in so many ways that we are not God. In so many ways, we are powerless and vulnerable. The happenings of this past year tell us so bluntly that we cannot depend solely on ourselves to deal with the overwhelming challenges that we face. Christmas calls us to come home again. The message of Christmas is that our only hope of saving our world is to recognize our need for the God who created us and our willingness to rededicate ourselves to this God enfleshed in the Christ, whose birth we celebrate this evening. The key to the Christmas message is this: our life is not just about us. Every breath, every heartbeat, every morsel of food, every seeming success is a gift. We are entirely dependent on God's loving us into being and keeping us in being, interdependent with all beings. Our life really does not belong to us. We are gifted with it for a time, and we are challenged to use it well. This year, our world needs Operation Christmas. It needs Operation Rivers of Light. It needs Operation Bethlehem. We need to see large trees lit up and rivers flowing with lights with messages of peace and the sky lit up, telling each one of us, whether from the United States or North Korea, whether from Iraq or Venezuela, whether from London or Afghanistan, we need to hear the message, follow the light, and this light will guide you to peace and freedom. In the center of St. Peter's Square in Rome, Italy, is a towering 92-foot spruce tree that measures 32 feet in diameter, surrounded by the nativity scene. Reminders, says Pope Francis, of God's compassion, of God's participation and closeness to our humanity, a humanity that our God does not abandon in dark times, but a humanity that has been visited now by the incarnate God who accompanies us in our difficulties. It's a reminder, Francis says, of what Jesus told us in the Scriptures. Do to others what you would have them do to you. As we come together this Christmas Eve and celebrate Christmas of 2017, we are all very much aware of the threat from North Korea. Well, I'm old enough to remember, back in 1962, many of us here lived for a number of days with the thought of annihilation by nuclear war during the Cuban Missile Crisis. And it was during that crisis, and with that in mind, that a song was written. And the song asked the question, "Do you hear what I hear?" said the king to people everywhere. Listen to what I say. Pray for peace, people everywhere. Listen to what I say. The child sleeping in the night, he will bring us goodness and light. He will bring us goodness and light. Let each of us this Christmas accept the invitation to come home to God. Listen to what this child tells us, and let us all pray for the grace to truly be at peace with all of our brothers and sisters.